Welcome back to the anchor desk here with Eric Danis. We are madly scrambling to get all of the points tallied for you so that we can tell you exactly what the standings are. But we do know that going into the second round, Ukraine really needed to get some points, and it didn't quite go their way, really, did it?
That's right. Troyanovsky has scored a few points for the country, and that's great. The UK, we also have, I forget who it is, but we do have someone that's Ollie Price actually scored some points. So the UK really did manage to get a little more lead in there. So the UK and the Ukraine are still, or what looks to be still, our two bottom teams. If we talk about the top teams, Italy is still going strong.
Incredible.
Giuliano Bandinelli winning both of his matches, just an amazing feat. Probably not the name that would be on the tip of everyone's tongues coming into this event asking who would be the top player, but for now he is the top player. And we did talk about Patrick Brial at the start of this event where we thought that maybe he'd be overmatched a bit, but he just defeated Ola Shemyon heads up for a 9,000 point score. He finished top 3 in the other event as well. So Patrick Brial is doing very well for himself, but still very, very, very early as we both know.
It is, and let's take a look at the Italian team now as well, because I know some of them a little bit more than the others. I now live in Italy, so I'm Italian resident. And as we were saying, Giuliano Bandinelli has absolutely stormed for their team, taking 2 back-to-back first heats here. So, I mean, in terms of Giuliano, or Julie as his friends call him, he's very much a volume player. He plays a lot online especially. He's very mathematical in what he does. He's very thoughtful, and he's an incredibly smart player. And they were kind of joking in the interview, if you guys saw that earlier, about how they have different styles. And some of them are a little bit more aggressive, and some of them are a little bit more mathematical in what they're doing. And there is definitely the joke about that with Italian poker, that they play, it's di braccia. So it's with arm. It's basically arm wrestling sometimes instead of poker, which I love.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
That interview also is surprising to see that the wild card, Rocco Palumbo, does seem to be somewhat of the leader of the team. He's stuck out as the leader, whereas San Martino and Bandinelli are taking a step back and just getting points. San Martino, of course, a very accomplished player on tour, and Andrea Dato had a very tough seat draw here with Duhamel, with Selps. Very strong table, and he played very well, and he was a fortunate double up on a full house versus full house hand with Alex Billiker right here, right next to us at the anchor desk. So things are not only playing well, things are going well for Italy, and it's showing in the standings.
It really is, and as you were saying, Rocco is, I mean, it's a very young team, as poker often is. He's kind of the elder statesman here. He has a World Series title, he has a WPT title, and he came in as the wild card, but he really does, he's kind of the glue that's holding them together as well. And now he and Giuliano Bandinelli are both from Genoa. They're Genovese. They're also friends kind of off the felt as well. So you can see that there's a lot of ribbon going on between the two of them as well.
Also important to note that Rocco Palumbo, when he won his his WPT title, I believe someone at this desk was contending late. Were they not?
Yeah,
Canadian,
I wasn't
Italian, American, whatever. UK star, Kara Scott, actually had a very deep run in Venice. For those who don't remember, that event is when Phil Hellmuth made a special appearance on a gondola wearing some very weird stuff on face, but we'll move along from
It's true. I think it was supposed to be very Venetian. He was going for a real kind of Venetian carnival look.
That's not the way I saw it, but sure, Kara.
Yeah,
sure.
that was kind of the point anyways. And that was a really good event. And you think about it, some of these players, I mean, just absolutely incredible. Now, Mustafa is amazing. He is one of the top tournament players in the world. He really, it seemed for a little while, especially in the last year, he just had to go and sit down at a high roller in particular, and he would be walking away with an enormous amount of money. He's, he lives here, I believe, in Malta as well.
Right.
So, which, a lot of players moving around so that they can play a little more poker.
Actually, during a conversation yesterday at the players' party, George Dancer did mention that the one player he did not want to see in his draw is Mustafa Kanat, and he was very serious about that. He can handle everyone else, just cannot seem to handle Kennett at this point. Probably just can't get a read on him. So, he was making sure, just looking at that draw, making sure that he would not get that Italian draw. I'm actually not sure if they were on the same table. We'll have to check for you later.
They will be at some point. So,
That's right.
I mean, we're going to be taking a look at another feature table very soon. It's going to be the third round, the third match here for the playoffs. Now, in terms of what they're playing for, obviously everyone wants to win. We've been hearing a lot of that in the interviews. They want to win because that's where most of the points are. But they have to place in the top 4 in order to take any points at all from that match. Now, what do those points do for them going forward?
Well, I mean, those points will eventually turn into chips, and that's where the value is. That's why Sure, finishing second in every event is great at this point to qualify for the next round, but at some point, if you don't get a few wins in there, you're just going to lose some of those chips later on. We had an interesting dynamic between Jonathan Duhamel and Vanessa Selps, where they basically chipped up. They looked at the amount of chips they had, figured out that Jonathan would have to go all in 4 times in order for Vanessa to still to lose the chip lead. So they had an understanding where Jonathan would just go all in and she would automatically fold. We saw her fold an ace. We don't know what was with that, but there was no value for her gambling and the fact that she was hoping that only 4 hands would be played, and if there was a 5th hand, then we're back to a game of poker. So interesting dynamic, and what we told you earlier today about that type of style, right? It's not a regular poker tournament. It's different, and these are situations where it's not collusion, but it's 2 people understanding where they stand and just having fun with it, and they had fun, and it made for some actually riveting poker as well, because that hand where Vanessa had the ace, she really thought, unlike Shemyon earlier today, who actually just went for it, she actually did fold, and probably knowing Vanessa Selps, probably really wanted to play that hand against world champion Jonathan Duhamel.
It can be a little bit painful, and I have seen it in the past in a point structure game like this, in a match like this, where some people understand the structure a little bit better than others, and it can be really frustrating for some of the players at the table who understand kind of what's supposed to happen in terms of who should be folding where, when the other players aren't actually playing that way. So it's not kind of an automatic all-in fold situation sometimes. You really have to understand your opponents and how much they understand the structure.
Yeah, I think at some point that's where the team aspect needs to come in. Some players might understand it more, some players might not want to understand it more, but that player still needs to either follow team guidelines or at least be a team player. So at some point, maybe someone like Ole will be sat down by a guy like George Danzer, who told us basically he doesn't care if he's not winning right now. All he needs to win is his final match on Sunday. So that was pretty cool to hear from George. But George is someone who's got the experience. He's the WSOP Player of the Year. Maybe he can then sit down with Ole just to make sure he understands. I'm just not convinced that that's going to make any difference at any point.
Now, let's talk about what we might see going forward as the points are starting to be a little more important. If you are one of the bottom, say, 3 teams and you really need points, do you hope that the players that are on the team on top, say Italy, continues to storm ahead, that they just take that lead and run with it, or are you hoping that the points are a little closer together?
Absolutely. I think at this point it does become critical for those bottom teams. Maybe not for the UK, where we're still waiting for the official results, but I think the Ukraine are in a spot where they absolutely would want to see the top 2 teams, which seem to be Italy and Russia, just run away with it for now. The US just had an amazing round 2, France. So I think at this point they're looking for the moment, at least in the 3rd round. Let's try to get some points in. Let's not worry about the top 4. Let's worry about the 8th position, because it's becoming critical for them. And maybe should they win, maybe a Eugene Kachlov win, a Koroshinin win, then suddenly that's 18,000 points. You might be in a brand new situation. But I do believe that it is critical at this point. Someone on that team needs to realize that if they get a shut out another round, it doesn't mean that it's over, not at all. But it does mean that at a certain point they're just going to have to score big wins, and that that might it's going to be coin flips at the end, and where they're going to go for either 9,000 points or go home. And let's hope for them that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. We're about to get started. I can hear the voice, the dulcet tones of Thomas Lamach, who is our TD. He's here working with us as the referee. Of the entire thing here for today and tomorrow. There is an enormous amount of poker to be played for the rest of this day. We still have 3 matches of these 8-seat tables, and then tomorrow we'll be taking a look at a few different kinds of poker, including heads-up poker, and then also looking at a 6-max table, and then going back to heads-up.
A 6-max tag team where people are going to have to tag in and out. It's going to be madness, and that's probably the one that I'm waiting for the most. Obviously, the 5x5 heads-up match will be pretty riveting, but boy, tag team is going to be fun to see how the players are going to go. I think a team like Italy that seemed to have the camaraderie going, it might be easier for them to go in and out. But when it comes to the U.S., where they have so many ranked players, Canada that has 4 of the top 15 top players in the world, how do you process that? How do you tell Jonathan Duhamel, that's it, buddy? It's going to be great to see. So teams at that point, I think right now it is still an individual sport. It might be very, very different at that point, where they'll have no choice but to just gamble. Sorry, not to gamble, but to make those decisions and maybe find a team captain to figure that out, or they just figure out a system in order to get that done.
Well, let's see if the teams are able to gel in a way that means that they can talk about strategy and figure out who should be doing what. We're about to start our 3rd match, so we're going to let you guys go back to the action, and we'll see you here in about another half an hour. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Eric. Welcome back. And now we've got Tatiana.
Patrick, I'm